27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And there isn't one of us that doesn't want to be someplace else. This is what we do. Who we are.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
Boom, and welcome to Rambo and Friends. I am your host, Joe Rambo. I could not be more excited about today, but let me just say a few things prior to that. I want to apologize to everybody that has very quickly been following and sharing and watching this show. I am about as transparent as they come. I still work 70 hours a week at a swing shift job, burning trash to make electricity for all those people out there that are fans of Teslas. I happen to not be one of those, but that's the case, right? So this month, I promised everybody I would be back on the horse and riding hard and doing shows every day. And it turns out that one of our units came down at work. So this week, this is the only show I've gotten a chance to do. And unfortunately, I have one show next week I even have to cancel. And I will be doing two shows, though, Tuesday and Wednesday. So for all you guys that are piling in and you loved the last show with Dave from News Treason, Dave will be here on Tuesday. And I am still working to confirm, but I do have high hopes for somebody on Wednesday. After that, we will be going into what I am hoping is the end of that outage, and we will be back on the horse and doing 3, 4, maybe 5 even shows a day. I could not be more grateful for the reception that this show's gotten. I was literally just talking to our guest today, pre-show, and letting them know that it's unbelievable what you guys have done. The last 3 shows here on Rambo and Friends, a platform that is only 4.5, I don't know if we're yet pushing 5 months, has now been on the leaderboard at Rumble 3 shows in a row because of all of you guys hitting that thumbs up. I don't know how to say thank you enough, to be completely honest with you. It means the world to me. I don't understand exactly what's happening. It almost feels like white hats are in complete control, if you know what I mean. So if you guys could and you want to continue that trend, please do me a favor and smack that thumbs up. It means the world. I don't know what's happening, but I'm grateful to be a part of it, and I hope you guys are all grateful to be a part of it too. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce who we're having on today. So AlphaWarrior, who's coming on today, was gracious enough to invite me and my old partner onto his show just a while back. Alpha is also part of Badlands Media, who I love and respect and look up to tremendously. I've come to the conclusion here recently that I almost really truly enjoy interviewing the hosts of these other shows more so than I like interviewing the guests that a lot of them have on. And that's in no way, shape, or form supposed to be taken in a disrespectful manner towards their guests. But I am of the mindset that steel sharpens steel. And when you do this every day, and I think that I'm starting to reap the benefits of it, as well as all these people I'm having on, the hosts of these shows, the ones that really put their faces out there and their names out there, and they bring these people on and they're trying to build a platform to further the movement that we all love so much, and God and freedom and country and family and saving the kids. That those are the guys that I really want to talk to, because they've had all of these amazing conversations with those big guests, right? So for me, it's almost more important to give these type of dudes a platform to then tell their story, right? Dave and Feisty Cat and Smart Paul and JF and you know, Absolute and Stormy Patriot Show. Like, these are the dudes that I want to talk to, right? So with that being said, let's hear from the boss and let's get this party started.
I wouldn't miss a chance to talk to my friends. These are my friends.
Alpha, bro. Welcome,
boss,
Rambo
bro.
and Frens. Yeah.
The boss. And that syncs up so great with the freaking title. Too. I'm stoked to be here, man. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I mean, look, when you had me on your show, it was, you know, if I'm realistic about it, I think it was because my Twitter account was getting some attention, and that was really cool to be able to get asked by somebody like you to be on. But like, I've been a fan of yours since well before that. So
Get out of here.
yeah, dude, you kidding me? I love this movement. I was kind of like thrust into this thing because of my background in addiction and the way my father passed away. Everybody on the show knows the story, but I started out by obsessing over all of the work that many people did, and some of which was yours. So I'm so grateful to have you on, and I'd love to learn more about you. Like, if you could, I don't want to put you like completely on the spot, but
Put me on the spot, bro. Put me on the spot.
Well, I know a little bit about you, right? So I know the military, I know the police, I know a little bit about the legal things that you're going through, but I would love for you to tell my audience, like, what was your red pill? Like, how'd you end up here? Where did you come from?
So everybody's gonna laugh at me. That's the first one. So I consider myself a very, 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 very late bloomer. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of this audience has probably been red pilled way longer than I have. So shout out to all of you, because y'all got some patience. I'll say that much. So, you know, when I was in the fight for my career from law enforcement, they opened up a lot of time for me, right? Because I'm used to working, you know, like you know, 16, 18 hours a day. And pretty much you only come home to sleep and eat, and then you're right back at it. And so when I was in the fight for my career, all of a sudden it was all this time that I haven't had in, you know, a decade and a half. And so I'm watching the news, you know, and I see, you know, this stuff on social media. This is back when I had Instagram before they took me down. And I see all these people posting, Epstein didn't kill himself. And I'm like, who's this Epstein dude? Why does everybody even care if this dude killed himself? People kill themselves every day. Like, you know, like that's just part of the, you know, especially with my career. And so I'm like, let me look into this. And bro, that is what brought the house of cards down in this illusion of a world that we live in, because I applied all the you know, formal and informal training I had from law enforcement as a detective and homicides and gangs. Like, that training skill set is my skill set. And so when I started seeing this, I can't even count how many times I was like, nah, type. What? And then it would lead me to this rabbit hole. And then I'm just like, nah, what do you mean there's adrenochrome? No way. Type. What do you mean Google has something that's called Adreno and they have an app called Chrome? No, dude, that year was a year of Nas and just shocked face for me. And so it led me to following a lot of the big names that we've all, you know, followed at one point. Some people still follow them. And I started getting this information, and, you know, we hear this term, you know, cognitive dissonance, right? And I struggled with it. To this day, it's something I still battle with. Like, I've never completely conquered it. And I started to realize these things, and I was like, man, like, that movie, The Matrix, really does have a whole nother, it's a documentary, right? That's what it is. And so I started watching it, but then I started having this frustration, and mad respect to all the people that helped facilitate my red pill journey. But I had this frustration. I'm like, you know, there's more to it. Why aren't you crossing you have, you know, 250,000 people watching. Like, go there. Like, the people want to hear you say it. You're a voice of notoriety. You're a face people trust. Like, even if you want to say, hey, I'm not completely confident here, but let's look into this. and people weren't doing it, man. And I started getting frustrated, and I started thinking, okay, are they scared? Have they been threatened? You know, is the money so good that it's like, look, I'm gonna take you guys, to the forest, but you got to lead yourself through the trees because I like getting 60, 100, $200,000 a month, right? Which I don't get. Don't get it twisted. One day, hopefully, but I ain't even close to that yet. And so finally, I have, my J6 story, and I just saw that people wouldn't, it came to elections, people didn't want to talk about like the meat and potatoes. When it came to that bioweapon that was, put into a lot of people didn't want to talk about the meat and potatoes. And then when people, came to like January 6th and and I said, you know what, screw it. If no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. My attorneys were like, hey, time out, bro. You are not going on these radio syndicates and all this other stuff. You are mad. Like the FBI and the prosecution will be licking their chops. And I said, I ain't got nothing to worry about. I'm going to say the truth. And if I get something wrong, I get something wrong. But and they were just so finally after they realized that I wasn't, the green light was there. And then my red pill journey took me into August 31st of 2021 was my first episode, bro. And I was just like, what am I doing? And that's how my journey started, man.
Well, can I back you up? Can you are you yet released by these attorneys to tell us about your J6 journey?
So, one, yes, because no one's going to tell me what I can and can't talk about. Not the government, not the FBI lies, and definitely not attorneys who I'm paying for. Like nobody's going to tell me you can say this, but don't say that. No, I have brothers that died overseas. I know the things I was subjected to in combat. So my words are probably one of the most important things that I get to have that nobody gets to control. So now with that, I fired my attorney about 2 months ago now. It kind of hit me blindsided, man. We go into court for a hearing. It was a trial readiness conference, and he's there with his partner. They own the firm, and he's like, you got to plead guilty, like almost in a panic. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, we've been battling this for 3.5 years. Like, you've been by my side. Like, we've got to win. We even have it to the point where if the judicial system is that corrupt, we're still setting it up for the appeals, because at some point we're going to have a righteous government and a true, honest judicial system, and we'll win then. And he was just, and so I was just like, no, man. And he's just like, well, you can let me go. And so fired my attorney. A few minutes later, I have to go before the courtroom, like that. I do my best to position myself so I don't get caught off guard, and that one really caught me off guard. And so as a matter of fact, yesterday was my next court hearing that I had with the public defender. Now, listen, I know what everybody's thinking. What? You're mad? I would think the same thing. Because like I said, almost a decade and a half of law enforcement, the one entity that I trusted the least is the public defender's office. Like there ain't no way, right? And how am I supposed to go in there and have confidence when this office is the one that I battled against? Like, we're not friends. And so they don't immediately get to some, but the thing is these attorneys are expensive. And to try to start the process all over, with the crowdfunding, and even as much as the crowdfunding helps, like, you'll be in debt the rest of your life with these bills. And so it was just one of, like, and this is all happening in that morning. Like, what am I going to do? Right. Like, if I try to go for another attorney, they're going to want a $20,000, $40,000, $60,000 retainer, because everybody just either wants the money off J6 or they're just too afraid to even touch it. So like, your pool of who you get to pick from is already small. And so I said, well, let me just hear what this public defender has to say, and we'll take it from there. And obviously prayers and my faith, and the prayers and faith of so many, listeners like today. And so I was like, I go and I meet with this public defender, and in the first meeting, he's bringing up things that, one, I missed. He's bringing up things that my other attorney didn't do, the one that's making the big bucks, right? And he's on fire. So I'm like, so now I'm dealing with this internal turmoil, bro. Like, I don't trust you guys. Like, we were on the opposite ends of the courtroom battlefield. And so I don't know if my story moved him. I don't know if it's my conviction to where the position I'm taking moved him, or he sees like, this is a career opportunity for him, to take on this. And either way, I don't mind. Like, however that turns out. But as it stands right now, I actually have a public defender. And we'll see. We'll see kind of where God takes us. Now, yesterday, the reason it was so important was it was the trial readiness conference. And we were forced into it. So it's not like it's completely voluntarily, but as it stands right now, unless something major happens between now and this date, January 13th, where we are announced ready for trial, and which means that sometime between, it's I think 29 or 30 days, so sometime between January 13th and February 13th, every week we'll show up to see if there's a jury pool that's ready that we can start working with. But we're looking at my trial finally making a move, which is going to be, late January, early February. Now, the interesting thing is we're going to kind of know where we stand as a nation, right? It's like on the 13th, like it won't go that day, but more likely at the earliest about a week after that is when it'll go, which is inauguration. And so we either swearing in the boss man, or election never happened, or this country's in some type of World War III. Like, there's a lot that we could probably talk about today, bro. But like, by the time I go to trial, we're gonna know where we stand.
Bro, that's blowing my mind because the whole country has a vested interest in what's coming, right? The single fact that your show and my show are growing the way that they are is a testament that people are waking up to the fact that there's something odd going on. It's interesting to hear your story as a J6er and it be leading into what I certainly can't see as anything other than a mess. Like, what's coming,
dude,
which nothing can stop.
Let me interrupt you. So, you know what the original date they offered me with? And I was like, no, we are not doing that date. They wanted January 6th, bro. I said, you guys have lost your effing mind.
Wow.
You push that back. We are not doing this like that. Like, y'all could make me a story, but I'm not. No, we ain't doing that one, man.
Wow. Well, you did put your face out there just before me, like a year or so before I started doing this. And it's interesting that you're going through this legal battle, which is about as patriotic as it could be, right? And my battle, which is not similar, but it's running parallel, is for my child, right? So through my addiction, I lost my son at 2. I was not addicted for all of the 10 years I did not have it. There was a large portion where I was starting to do better and financially rebuilt myself, and I lost my father, and I made amends for all. But I am now currently in this war, and there's no way I could possibly use a public defender. It's I agree with you. They defended me many times when I couldn't afford to defend myself. And so now that it means everything to me, I have had to lean on people in this movement. I've had to lean on friends. I've had to do anything and everything I can possibly do to have the best defense possible. And I almost just lost that defense because of monetary stuff. So I'm not putting that out there to play victim towards anyone, but I mostly want to say it because I understand what you're going through. It is insane how you can get wrapped up in these battles, which feel almost spiritual, good versus evil. What can you tell us, Alpha? What are you specifically charged with?
Yeah, and before I get into that, because I want to add to what you said, because I don't want people to misinterpret what I'm saying. So things that are very important. One, never talk to law enforcement, ever. Whether you did something wrong or you didn't do something wrong. The only words that should come out of your mouth when you're talking to law enforcement: what's your name? Lawyer. Where were you born? Lawyer. What's the phone number we can contact you at? Lawyer. Like, that's it. And the reason being is you have really good cops out there, and they're well-intentioned. They're trying to solve things. but you also have, cops out there that aren't so good. And your life is not what you want to use to wager that scenario on what your cooperation is going to look like. And the bad ones can take things out of context. So one, never speak to law enforcement outside of the imminent emergency, like for something that's life-saving. That's a different situation. But if you're the person that's being subjected to questioning or interrogation, lawyer is the only thing you should ever say. That said, when it comes to public defender's office, but I am by no means advocating to use the public defender. As a matter of fact, for those that have followed my story or know it, and we'll get into it here in just a second, it's been very unique. And like Joe, I agree. There's faith that's been involved. There's most definitely outside good guys that there's no one that's going to convince me that they have not been involved. And so that's a very unique set of circumstances that most criminal formulas when it comes to a trial are absent. And so when it comes to your defense, especially when it comes to freedom or any type of litigation, the way this country is right now, unless things change, offer yourself the best thing that your money can buy you, because it's to see people lose it all is a heartbreaking thing. And you can't even put a value when it comes to children, Joe. And I've seen that circumstance, out there, too many unfortunate times, especially, me being out in California. So my heart goes out with you, and I'll continue to keep you in my prayers for that. Now, my specific charge, it's very weird. The charge is simple, but the story is weird. So my specific charge, I'm in California, is Penal Code 30605, which is possession of an assault rifle. Now you say, but I thought it was a January 6th case. Well, it is. But Alpha, you said you weren't at January 6th. I wasn't. You see how this is getting twisted really quick. Wow. So on January 6th, which I wish I could have been there. I think it was a phenomenal experience. I think there's some things there that should have been corrected and should not have happened. But 99.9% of what took place there was absolutely amazing. And I won't let the bad guys try to cloud that many Americans coming, to our nation's capital to be with the boss man. Like, I'm not going to give that to them. Now, that being said, I did post on my social media, this is back when it was Twitter, my thoughts to that. And according to the FBI, Joint Terrorism Task Force, they said that a confidential three times in the warrant, the parts of the warrant that we're able to see, 3 times, confidential informant, confidential citizen, and I think confidential citizen again. So CI. 3 times they said that my social media was reported to them for a concern that I would disrupt the inauguration based off of January 6th. In other words, domestic terrorism was what I was being reported to the FBI for. So the FBI took my tweets. Now remember, at this time, I've won the first part to get my job back with law enforcement. Court ruled, hey, this dude has integrity. You guys were wrong. You need to hire him back, reimburse him, make him full. So I'm looking at a fat check when I go back to work, aside from a civil lawsuit for wrongful termination. But the city did the writs appeals case, which was scheduled for May. Stay with me, everybody. These dates are important. They were scheduled for May of 2021. So FBI raids my house on January 15th of 2021 based off of what I just provided you guys. Now, during this time, I'm not going to tweet anything stupid because I still fall under the scope of my agency. So if I go out on social media and cross the line and say texts that are truly illegal, that will fall under the law enforcement's definition of, in California, Penal Code 422, which is terrorist threats, I give my agency an out to say, well, no, you violated policy here, so we'll bring you back, we'll give you your reimbursement, but now we're firing you because you screwed up here, you violated agency policy. So I'm not going to do anything stupid while this is all transpiring. So FBI raids my house off of Twitter posts and zero criminal history for, like, look, my Bonnie and Clyde moment, Joe, was in 2003. I got pulled over by California Highway Patrol because I had tinted windows. Like, that's the level of criminal history that I have. And so they decide that they are going to flashbang my home, show up with the FBI, JTTF SWAT team, park the armored vehicle in my lawn, put a drone up in the sky, surround the house with operators, and pull me and my family out at gunpoint. Now, interesting thing is, I was part of a tactical team in my law enforcement career. And when we do, we'll call this a SWAT hit. It's the same version of, what we do as a SWAT hit or, dynamic teams. There's a matrix of things that we got to go through to do that, because it's the threshold for somebody to get hurt in that situation comes up to the very top. And so you want to make sure that you dot your I's and you cross your T's. Agency for liability, us on the ground level for safety. And so I come out, first, families, crying, they're freaking out. I said, listen, let me back up to a very important part of the story. The house gets shaken, right? Because of this flashbang, because it's an old house that I'm renting. And the alarm of my truck's going off and the alarm of the house is going off. So two things crossed my mind, because I did undercover work and I work gangs. And while this is going on to this day, as a matter of fact, I have people in trial for murder cases and attempt murder cases that are very, like, some of the worst people. And so something I've always had to live with is that element of danger never goes away so long as those people are alive. And so when this happens, I'm like, A, did they find out where I live and it's go time? Or B, did some drunk crash into my truck and my truck hit the house? Like, that's what I'm thinking. It is by the grace of God, Joe, that instead of reaching on my nightstand and grabbing my duty gun, I grabbed my phone. And as I get to the door, there's red dots on the door. My phone rings. So I put the AirPod in, and it's a dispatcher from the FBI. And she's like, we have your house surrounded. And like I said, family's freaking out. So I tell them, look, it's the police. I'm sure this is a misunderstanding, because this is absolutely nuts. We'll figure it out. And so I go out. They do the whole felony style arrest. And Joe, I'll tell you what, man, right there in my driveway, and I'll shoot you a video. My neighbor has surveillance video of it. For the first time in my life, man, outside of a training scenario, I'm putting my hands behind my head and hearing that click, 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 click. And it ain't training, man. And for the first time in my life, I'm not free. And I get put on the sidewalk, and then I have to watch my family be subjected to the same thing, not with the handcuffs, but subjected to the same thing. There for a couple hours, the agents finally end up coming. They pull me to the backyard. I've asked for the warrant multiple times, wasn't given it. And finally, when we go to the backyard, I'm telling you, this is a wild story, bro. The two FBI agents, the ones with the blue jackets with the, the famous movie FBI letters, he opens up this leather bifold. And as he's opening it up, I see the screenshots of my Twitter. And in my head, I'm thinking, you got to be effing kidding me. Like, if this is what you subjected my family to, like, I'm pissed, bro. And so he sees me looking at it. He's like, we want to talk to you about your social media being potentially violent. And I said, first of all, nothing in my social media is violent. I want my lawyer. Because that's the advice I'm giving everybody, right?
Yeah.
And, they forced the interview anyways. And that was the start of the story. So now the rifle that's in question is my duty rifle. This is the rifle that I had in law enforcement since, I believe, 2009 or 2010. And everybody's always just like, come on, man. Like, there's got to be more to the story. So bear with me. I didn't have this.
I can't wait to respond to this, by the way.
So I always tell people, don't take Alpha's word for it. All right, here you go. Cathedral City. And if you look right there, and I'll read it. Department of State of California, Department of Justice, Division of Law Enforcement, Firearms Licensing and Permits Unit, Bureau Firearms, their address regarding, and then it has my name, Alfredo Luna. And then over here you see Smith & Wesson, model M&P. I'm reading this backwards. Bear with me. Model number M&P 15, and then the serial number, right? Signature from the police chief, my signature, and the date of October 7th, an interesting date, of 2011. So once again, I'm arrested for possession of an unregistered assault rifle. I just showed you guys the form that my agency has, the DOJ has, and thank God I have a copy of it on my own. So we'll see when we get to court. Now, in between then and there's a lot more that's happened, but if you got some questions or some comments, man, please interject.
Well, I do, but you're gonna. I want to emphasize that there's humor based in what I'm about to say. Okay. It is. Sorry, I'm trying to pull Rumble back up. I accidentally deleted it. I don't want to miss the comments. When you had me on, let me back up. You and I come from opposite sides of the planet. You're law enforcement, and I was a highly sick young man, addicted to drugs and living a life that nobody should be proud of. The only thing I'm proud of is where I'm at now, right? Only because of the redemption story from such a horrific past. Guys like you bounced my head off the hood of a car. I couldn't tell you how many times. That's just the truth. And when I began to get some traction on social media, again, you weren't the only one. I got some attention, and some people asked me to come on and give my opinions. I do believe in everything that I say. I made a promise to my father and myself that I was always tell the truth. But if you remember, this is something that stuck with me, Alpha. When I was on with you, you mentioned that because I was kind of like explaining how I came to my conclusions, and you had said, or maybe you're an operator. And and I'm listening. Wait, oh, now hold on. Now I'm listening to your story as law enforcement who has been charged with January 6th stuff for possessing firearms and going up against law enforcement. I'm thinking, is this dude an operator?
Listen, I'll be the first to admit it, bro. If I heard my story, I'd be like, like, no, there's something going on here because it's that unbelievable. It truly is. Now, I will say, I'm not an operator. I never started off being recruited. I have since not been recruited. If anybody's using my content, they're doing so without my, formal, knowing, because I imagine they are, But again, that's my speculation. Like, I've never been recruited or anything like that, which kind of hurts my feelings. like, man, it'd be good for you guys. Come on, give me a shout out. I need some good health benefits. But no, not an operator. But I will say this. We say this term information warfare all the time. We talk about psychological operations and we talk about psyops. If because I've ran large scale operations with multiple agencies involving NCIS and the ATF, like you're talking 400 plus cop operations, multiple counties, and I was the guy. Like, you're gonna get all the accolades, or your career is done because you're the quarterback, right? Everybody, you did it, or man, that dude sucks, and that's why this operation was terrible. Like, it's gonna be one or the other. And I was very fortunate in the career I had. So if I was the one running this, warfare as in, in the perspective of like a white hat, I would have my formal recruitment. But the other thing that I would deploy is this recruitment of personalities, faces, and voices that's informal. And I would do it through enough layers of separation that the message was communicated, and we would help facilitate these people. Because here's the thing that's about information in an information war, and everybody in the audience, I know at least one time has experienced this. You've gone and you've either listened to the radio, you've watched the podcast, or you've gone on these virtual town halls on social media, and you're like, that is complete bullshit. You know what I mean? And that what that person's saying is not sincere. Even if it's good information, we're all, especially through this great awakening, are that discernment thing that we talked about a little earlier, we're all getting better hold of that. And we're able to kind of start recognizing, nah, this don't feel right. And versus where the media has always told us what to believe, we're now in a position where it's like, yeah, I'm going to start trusting this right here. And something here don't seem right. And so if you're a white hat operation, you understand that if you start going to a lot of these podcasters, we'll use me and Joe for an example, since we're on your guys' screen, and you were told, this is what you got to communicate, and this is what you got to do. Well, whether consciously or subconsciously, you now know that there is a motive of something you have to facilitate. And even if it's good, it still removes some of the sincerity and honesty that comes with it. And if people detect that, it can start to grow. And that's where you get doubt. And so, like I said, if I was doing it, I would put enough people, and this goes really good into what you were kind of talking about pre-show, talking to the podcaster versus the guest. And when you have this kind of environment and relationship, you kind of get to see, all right, because like, trust me, just like you, Joe, and probably so many others, I get these emails of, this is what's going on, right? There's no way to fall back on the email. It's one of those anonymous ones, or you just can't track it back. And I'll look through it and I'll try to vet it. And if I can't vet it, I won't push it. Now, I know from a content perspective, if I put that out there, that's going to be $100,000 view show. Like, I know it is. But if I'm wrong, if that information's being, pushed to me to rug pull my credibility, they win, I lose. Or, you know what? I can and I'll see it. And this is how, this is a great conversation, bro. This is how I've been able, from someone who's ran operations, I've been able to see who has the same mutual connections, because there's information that I won't put out because I can't vet it. And like clockwork, the next 6 hours, 12 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours, I see who's putting it out. And some of them putting it out verbatim, which tells me you got the email, you got the
page.
you got the email, you got the email, you got the email. And sometimes it's not from an anonymous source. Sometimes it's from a source I do know, but I can't vet the content. So, I'll be delayed when I put it out there. So I've been able to kind of see, all right, I'm starting to see what these bubbles look like. Because at the end of the day, Joe's an operator. Joe thinks Alpha's an operator. Everybody, we'll use the Oprah. You're an operator. You're an operator. The only one that you can truly know for an absolute fact is, and I'm speaking to the audience here, is you. You know that you're honestly in this movement for how you're in this movement. And so I just assume everybody else is an operator, which that doesn't always mean a bad thing. It helps you control and navigate this information warfare. And I'll say one more thing and I'll give it to you, Joe. And you've been in spaces. I know you've heard me say this before, and it's a broken record, but I think it's so important. We use the word information warfare ad nauseum, but do people truly understand what it means? And for those, because I know some, don't like them, but for those that have at least read the book by General Flynn and Boone, and it covers, the different generations of warfare, it breaks it down what they are. And when we look at 5th generation warfare, it's information. You're telling me that information warfare is the evolution, which means more dangerous, it's going to have more of an impact than nuclear, than guerrilla warfare, than, terrorists. That's how powerful that information can be in an information war. And I hope if the people listening, if you grasp anything from today's show, it's truly understanding what you're saying or what you're hearing when people say information warfare. This is something that the highest ranks in our military have, and this isn't just General Flynn, you're talking across the board, have agreed that 5th generation warfare information is the evolution of war. Now that should really put into perspective why these kind of podcasts are so important.
I want to add to your point. Look, if we are to believe, which many of us do in this movement, that there's a higher power, and I'm not talking about God, but I mean an upper echelon, what they would call themselves as the elites that pull the strings, right? Just for a blanket description that basically control all of these things that happen globally, then you would, call it the war complex, right? So if they have figured out that it earns them more of certain things, money, power, control, if they have figured out that they can make more money, gain more power, more control by possessing the minds and hearts of the public than it does to drop bombs, because we all know they made millions doing that. I think it coincides exactly with what you're saying. So if they have figured out that they can control us that way and still through mainstream media, I mean, what is it? 7 major companies own all of the media on the planet. Is it 6 or 7? whatever it is.
It was 6 or 7, and then there was more buyouts, and I think it got reduced down to like 3 or 4 now, which is even scarier.
Right. And so if they found that they can do it for less money and gain more power and money and control without dropping nuclear bombs in Hiroshima, which you look back at it, you don't even know if that's true at this point. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm
No,
just
I'm with
saying
you.
there's questions.
I'm with you. This goes back to the first question you asked me, the red pill. And I'll speak for myself, but I would hope that people would at least consider this perspective. If we say we were red pilled, we say we're awake. And I'm telling you, this gets controversial, you guys. So let's preface this or preface it with I believe in God. All right. I believe in my creator. So I want to make sure nobody gets this twisted when I get to that part. If I tell people, hey, media is corrupt and controlled, right? Everyone that's awake's like, hell yeah, yep, absolutely. All right. Government's corrupt. Yep, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Our secondaries, school institutions and our schools corrupt and controlled. Yep, absolutely. History books. Yep, corrupt. Absolutely. Everything we've been taught. Yep, absolutely. Like the deep state has had their hands in everything for forever. Then everybody's with me. Yes, 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 yes. And then I say this, and then everybody gets mad at me. But the Bible was created by the same people. And then people are just like, whoa, 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 whoa. And once again, that's the discernment, cognitive dissonance. And like I said, I believe in God. And I do believe there's something special about the Bible. It's the only book that I know to that's referred to as the living word. And I believe that the power of my creator is, even if man puts manipulation into the text, that there's a reason we can read the same verse 20 times in our lifetime and take away a different message, because it's a connection thing. That's what's really taking place. And there's nothing that the deep state can do to compromise that. They can change every word of the Bible. If your intentions is to have a message from your creator, he's going to give it to you. Nothing can compromise that. But for the understanding of this is what they have. Like, this is the control they have. So when it comes to things like Hiroshima, Nagasaki, when it comes to things like the Holocaust, when it comes to things like our own revolution, we've been told the truth. If we say that these people have lied to us about everything, why would we say, well, they told the truth there, though? Like, they didn't lie to us about that. Like, we don't know.
You just set a fire in my chest. I did not plan on asking you about this. I didn't plan on asking you about this. But I got to know. I got to know your opinion because of what you just said. What happened on the assassination day?
So I have multiple theories. I'll go with, the top ones. Let's assume that everything is completely accurate the way we visually saw it. Somebody tried to kill President Trump. President Trump made a move, by the grace of God. And that's why we have him here today. And we're probably not in some full-blown like kinetic civil war or something like that right now. Then if that's the case, well, then who did it? Who has the motive to do it? And, the top of that, which a lot of people get mad at me too, is if Trump becomes president, who loses the power? Who has the most to lose? And it's our government and, Mossad, Israel's control. And, the buck doesn't stop at Israel. Israel has not always existed. You go back to the Balfour agreements and all the stuff that created Israel. Eventually, you find yourself back to the crown. So, I would put those in my suspect pool if it really happened the way it did. Then there's the understanding of, white hats are in control. And I think there's different concepts to what that may really look like. But if white hats are in control, then how the heck we allow someone to, fire lead down at the boss's head? And so you would argue that, it was orchestrated with complete confidence that everything would work out to perfection. And I do kind of struggle with that one, man, because we're talking like, a little pinch of hair. If you make a mistake, that story turns out a different way. And, we know that, there's a firefighter that was killed. And
do we though?
Well, and I'm going there, and I have been able to communicate with people that were there present that saw it. But then again, I don't know these people personally. And these people,
if I was there, I would probably tell you it looked real.
I mean, I'm talking someone that was like right next to them when it went down and saw that. Now, but once again, I don't know this I know this person, but I don't know them personally. So They could have been in that position for the very reason of being the witness that needs to communicate to people like me that need to hear from someone. Like tactical operations are tactical operations. Like, you don't plan these things for the day of the event. You plan these things for the months leading up to it and the months after it, because there's everything you have to account for.
That's my key sticking point, right? So everything else is talk, but you should know. I would think you would know that Donald Trump's the most protected man on the planet. That is a fact. Donald Trump has had many assassination attempts on his life. Missiles shot out of Alaska. We can go on. And I'm to believe that they did some DEI hires on a field.
That's comedy, bro.
In Butler, PA, where the perimeter looked like Pac-Man.
And here's the thing. I can tell you guys as an absolute fact, because once again, I've been a part of these presidential campaigns. I'm sorry, not campaigns, but these presidential security details. I've done it at the very localized beat cop level, and I've been a part of it at the tactical level. I've done both. I've done it from the simple things of convoys and other aspects of that. You know that map that they kept showing in Congress, with the color? That is a map. That is not the map. And what I mean by that is, I'll use a big festival that we do down here in Southern California, Stagecoach, because I love country. And people are like, what? Coachella Fest, for those of you that don't like country, but like that kind of music, right? We do the same operations for both, especially when you have multiple agencies. Is in the command center, when you get there, you're given a map. And in that map, it's going to show the festival. Typically it's color coded or numbered or both. And that kind of just shows you, okay, this is where this agency is working. This is where this agency is working. It just kind of shows you the area of operations. And if something goes down on the radio, you can refer to your map and like, oh, this is over here. This ain't got nothing to do with us. That's what they showed us. They showed us one of the operational maps. Now, the reason I know that's not the map is because the map includes everything even outside of the operation. And so the roads coming in, because you have roads that identify the traffic control, whether it's your responsibility or it's not. You have things that identify where the command post is. You have things that identify where first aid is. You have things of, if there's an evac, where that needs to take place. If a helicopter needs to land, that's where that takes place. Like, the map encompasses all that. And there's a reason they didn't show us. And the reason they didn't show us is when this first went down, the first thing that went in my mind, and granted, remember, it was, I think, at least multiple hours, if not days, before we found out about the cops that were actually inside that building, right? Immediately when this went down and people were asking me for my analysis, I told them, there's no way that that's not part of this, of that event, because that's exactly where I would set the command post. That's exactly where you would put the command post. You have a parking lot for your vehicles. If somebody gets hurt, you have an ambulance that can come in real easy. You have air conditioning for your guys. You have elevated viewpoints. I'm like, that place had to be crawling with cops. And then, of course, days later, that's exactly what we find out. So, to go to your point, man, there's some stuff that goes beyond just funny business.
Can I add a perspective to the things that you've discerned already? So here's where I struggle with this, and it's a perception issue. If it wasn't exactly what was presented, first of all, if it was, everybody thinks inside job. They're trying to get Trump. The bad guys got him. They've infiltrated. They're taking out Trump. If it wasn't what it was presented, then Donald Trump staged this whole thing for votes. And I don't think either one of those are real. Neither one of those things are real as far as my research goes. And my research, I like to say, protect your mind and control your emotions. Boone Cutler says it a lot. I say it a lot, 5th generation warfare. So if I take a step back and look at it with that 40,000 foot view, take the assassination attempt completely out of it. Maybe I should ask you this question before I go further. Do you believe what we're watching with the Joe Biden administration for the last 4 years is honest?
No.
Okay. So if we can all come to that root base opinion, then I try to figure out why. And if I go with why, I obviously bring in the drops, show not told, stuff like that, right? Everything that was done in darkness will come to light, right? We can bring in Donald Trump's pause statement, which is, if you know anything about me, it's my favorite Trump clip of all time. It's got 30 million views on my page. I can even play it for those that might not know it. But to paraphrase, he talks about, we will see how bad they've done, and it'll be easier to do what has to be done because everybody will agree with us. Okay, so if I take all of those things that I've now been basing every other topic in this movement on, and I'm able, look, even when I saw Donald Trump shot in the air, hit the ground, get the most epic photo in all of American history, strategically planned underneath that flag, and then gets ushered off while the military or whatever it was in fatigues come running in with guns, and somebody that got shot in the head didn't get used as evidence, got picked up and ushered off way over on the side. To me, it looked like a complete distraction event. It looked like a movie. I'm not saying Donald Trump staged it to win votes. What I'm saying is, and this is the big thing where I think perception is the problem. I believe that with this incident, just like many, many others, we are being presented with something that is very real, a threat that has happened or could happen that they know about through military intelligence. So if Donald Trump's assassination is a very real threat, I don't believe that 4POG or 8POG or military intelligence would have a problem presenting it to us in a way that we as a society could digest without burning our country down. So do I think they just staged it and faked it just to win votes? Absolutely not. Do I think that there may have been a controlled presentation to make us aware of very real issues? That's what I think.
So and this is why I say multiple scenarios, because here, if you believe it as it was shown, right, and you're somebody that subscribes to the idea of the Great Awakening, a white hat operation, clandestine operations, like if you truly believe that in your heart, and but at the same time believe it unfolded as the media reflected it, then this is the heartbreaking news that comes with that. It's one of two things. A, the white hats don't exist, because if they do, they would have never allowed that to happen. Or B, if they do exist, they are not as powerful and capable as we thought, because they couldn't prevent something targeting one of the most influential people needed in this movement. That's what comes with that territory. So then you're like, well, no, there's just no way. I don't believe either of those is possible. Then that means you have to drop into a different scenario. Okay, then it's in what you're going with, Joe. Then it's not exactly what was told to us. Then it opens up the door then what was what is it, and what was the purpose? And man, there's a lot of different paths that can go there. But the good thing about those paths is they're all indicative of showing that there was an element of control there. So it was a controlled event. Not saying that it wasn't a real event, but it was a controlled event. And there's things that I struggle with on that. I'm glad I was never a general in the military, because you never want to be the man to make a decision that's going to result in the loss of life. But you also have to make a decision where no matter what decision you make, there's going to be a loss of life. So you got to make the decision that minimizes the amount of casualties. And when we hear Trump saying he's a wartime president, when we see the Speaker of the House saying that they're, a wartime speaker, and we're not in any wars that anybody knows about, what the heck are they talking about? And I think because there is this clandestine versus good guy stuff that is taking on, going on behind the scenes. And so, my scenarios for that, Joe, and I wish I could give people some, all right, I'll hook onto that one. But one, I completely agree with you as one of the scenarios as you laid it out. There's a lot of people that, follow the concept of looking glass. And, and my take on that, I think that's more predictive technology versus something that is, a lens like we see in the movies. But, could it be something as far as, Trump and the White Hats knew that there would be an attempt made on his life, but also knew that something would happen, that he would survive it, based on this technology that's out there. Could be possible. I've heard that theory that's put out there. The one thing I will say, Joe, that I'm 100% positive on, it definitely was not what was showed to us at all. And so I'll say that with the 100% confidence.
And neither has anything since at least J6.
At least, yeah, but I agree with you. That probably
Way
goes
before.
way farther back than that one.
Way
Yeah.
before. But graspable fake reality has been since J6. If you truly look back at it with honest eyes, if you are able to separate your emotions and look back at J6, look, we could run the whole thing, but just the major points. Donald Trump told us they were going to steal the election. He told us. He narrative seeded the shit out of it. Told us for months and months and months. If you go back to the 2015 speeches, he told us they were going to open the borders. He told us they were going to shut down the pipelines. He told us that they were going to raise the prices in fuel. How is it that Donald Trump is able to tell the future the way that he did, unless a few things: we live in a simulation, looking glass, or scripted movie. There's no way he could tell us that the 25th Amendment would come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration 3.5, almost 4 years ago now, and then it happened exactly precisely that way, leading out of the Joe Biden administration. There's no way.
Here's something I'll give to the audience. You guys can do it. You don't have to do it. So I was in a police league for boxing, and I was very lucky to be trained by coaches who are also world champions, but have also trained world champions, because it's Southern California, there's a lot of that's out here. And I forget exactly what fight it was, but he had asked me, "Hey, who won?" And I remember I gave my opinion. He's like, "You sure about that?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Go back, watch the fight with no commentary." And so I was okay, right? I go back and I watch the fight with no commentary, and holy shit, Joe! What I was just like, hell no, that dude didn't win. I was wrong. That dude won. And this, like I said, this is way before I was ever red pilled. And what in Joel Diaz is the boxing coach I'm referencing here, solid man. What I realized was I was influenced, even though I was seeing something, I was being influenced by things that were being put in my ear. This announcer saying it, that announcer saying it, the ticker tape at the bottom. There were these things that were influencing me even when I was seeing something. So what I would tell the audience is, because there'll be another one, the next major event that happens, get a notepad. I always have my notepad with me. Get your pen and write down your initial thoughts. What do you think this is? What did you see? What does it look like? Just spend 30 minutes on that to document your initial take on it before you turn to a podcast, before you turn to social media, before you turn to the news. Document what you see, what you feel. Then go watch these things. And what this is going to kind of help you kind of sift through is, if you start to find, voices or personalities that are aligning with what you saw, and you start to hear other voices that are completely contradictory to that, are they offering it as opinion, or are they offering it as fact? Because we all are entitled to an opinion, even if we're wrong. And this kind of helps you gauge who's in this because they're like me and they're seeking the truth, and who's in this because they're trying to facilitate a narrative. And as you start to, flip the pyramid upside down, as you start to do that, the amount of people that you'll turn to for your information source gets smaller and smaller. And as it gets smaller and smaller, the other thing you're going to notice is it gets more accurate.
And you know what, Alpha? Psychology 101. There's many quote unquote influencers and talking heads, pundits in this movement that I believe are not on our side but pretend to be. And they are taking advantage of your emotional tie to liking that human being. So if you like someone and they've told you the truth enough, you begin to take their word as gospel. It happens a lot. I'm not going to go sitting here calling people out, but if most of you can take a step back and realize some of the people that I might be talking about, and if you don't, maybe you should take a step back and take a look, because it's difficult. For me, It comes down to prayer and meditation. It comes down to potentially watching things with the sound off, just like Alpha just said, so that I can use my own discernment. God gave us our own discernment for a reason. And not only that, but the emotional pull that we end up using to fight against even people within our own movement, in my opinion, is wrong. Right. I just posted a clip this morning of Charlie Kirk and some TikTok lefty kid arguing it out. And you know what? I loved it because they didn't punch each other in the face. There was a little bit of arrogance. There was a little bit of naivete, but I was able to watch it in a way that I took something from both sides, to be honest. I saw the kid, the cocky kid is a cocky kid, but I was able to take that step back and listen to it and take something from it. I keep saying here recently, make disagreements great again. There's no reason, there's absolutely no reason that we should be all having the same goal in country and family and freedom and God and saving the kids and be fighting each other. All of the conversations should be had with love and respect and a handshake or a hug at the end, and we keep moving forward as one. That is my ultimate goal with this show.
One of the things that I've told my dude, I have other, because this is not my formal training, so I'm like you, I'm just learning as I go, right? And so I've had people like, Alpha, don't ever say shit like that, man. I'm like no, man, I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. So this was probably like a year and a half, 2 years ago, but I told my audience, I said, if you've been watching my content and you've agreed with me 100% of the time since day one, you're a follower, not a patriot. I don't want followers. I want patriots. If we agree 100% of the time, one of us isn't being honest. And that's why when you say, make disagreements great again, that's how we advance knowledge. If we don't disagree, we never push the threshold of information to learn more. Now, if we disagree, somebody has to be right. And the only way you reach that final conclusion is through information. I go find stuff to support what I say, you go find stuff to support what you say, and then we're back at it. And then you start checking off, well, this one wasn't this. And at the end of the day, there's a set of facts that's going to lead you to believe either A, you were both right, just approaching it from a different perspective or a different point, or this ultimately was the correct information and this wasn't. But you don't get there if there's not a disagreement at the beginning. You got to have disagreements.
I'm going to keep it spacey for a second. You referenced the Matrix earlier. I actually just made a post on the Matrix, maybe yesterday or the day before. And I think the Matrix is pretty damn close to a documentary. I think that's even what you said earlier. I always reference the scene where there is no spoon, right? Because I think that it relates very much so to what we're seeing, at least at the DC level, federal government level. However, if you watch that full trilogy, Matt Kim actually reminded me of this in my comments on that post. At the end of that trilogy, you find out that Neo is still part of the Matrix and it just plugs you into a new one. And if we don't understand how to take that step back and discern on our own, then we're just still seagrass. We're still seagrass victims to 5th generation warfare. We're all waving to the same tide. And I can't possibly buy into the fact that I might be just plugged into another matrix. I didn't step away and find God and this whole discernment thing to just be plugged back in. It's not what I'm going to do. So
it's crazy, Joe. I'm curious if you've ever had this thought, man. I'll be on social media. I'll have this device right here, the devil's communication tool, right? I'll have this thing right here in my hand and I'll see something. I'll be like, oh, hell no, this person's full of shit. Nope. Right? And then I'm like, okay. Was this supposed to get a reaction out of me? And then I'm sitting there, I got my message, my response ready. And then I started asking myself a series of questions. Was that specifically written to elicit a response from me? And was that response from me created in order to directly affect my audience that follows me for information? So now we multiply that reaction, right? We start to make this one statement, become, real. Or, was this something that, okay, this is natural. Like I felt this way. And it goes as far as, were there things leading up to this statement earlier in the day, the days leading up to it? Because this is, and I've said this a lot, I got this smart watch on my hand right here. I'm heading to the gym after the show, keep track of my heart. Alpha's old. I got to make sure my shit don't pop. And we got this, these devices right here that has a, multiple cameras, but one. And as we're scrolling, let's think about what's happening here. I'm scrolling through, we'll use X. And as I'm scrolling, there's a device that's monitoring my heart rate. This device that has a camera that's looking at my pupil dilations. It's looking, all the physical reactions that I'm doing. If I slow down to a scroll and I start typing a message, the algorithms and software, whether it's Plantier, Stingray, or the stuff they haven't even told us about, all the stuff that we know is in play, knows exactly what made me slow down to a response. There's this biometric file on what makes Alpha respond versus what will make them just like, versus what will make them quote tweet, versus what will make them do a show. Like there's this digital file that knows exactly how I'm going to operate. So you got to ask yourself, we're on these devices, majority of the day, especially for us in this content creation battlefield. Think about, multiply that by the millions, which means they know exactly what to say, when to say it, where to say it, to get the reaction out of the populace that they exactly want to facilitate something else. This is the Matrix, right?
It's literally the Matrix.
It's literally the Matrix. So then it's like, well, what do? We'll try to do our best to trick the Matrix. Don't always respond. Sometimes go and say, you know what, I'm gonna pass on this one. Try to break the routine, because it's going to keep you honest with yourself. It's going to keep you reevaluating yourself, and just also have the understanding that whether we want to admit it or we don't, these digital files know more about how we're going to react than we ourselves can even recognize how we're going to react. So, part of winning the war is understanding your enemy. And if you know that your enemy, one of the things that they're hugely dependent on is data analysis, whether it be predictive technology or looking glass, then start shifting that, make yourself unpredictable, make yourself to where, have fun with the Matrix, go on one of Biden's posts and put, oh, that was a great idea. Love that. You're right. Wait, what? Great. It'd be great conversation. You'll probably piss a lot of people off, but that's okay. Just make yourself unpredictable, knowing what they're weaponizing against us.
Do you know what that does, Alpha? Because I do it all the time, to be honest. If I go on to one of the Krasen douches posts, or if I go on to Biden or Kamala and I agree with them, do you know what I get? Tons of traffic from the left. They all come to my page and they see the pause. 30 million views. They all show up and then they attack all my posts. It's really funny. It works great.
And I know you're telling the truth because I've seen it. I'll go and do something, and all these people that I'm like, other than that, they would never follow me. And you'll get, you get the notifications that somebody's following you, and then I'll go look, and they're not following no more. So it's exactly what you said. They saw it, they liked it, they followed, they went to the page, and then we're like, hell no, wait, no, I'm out of here. This guy's crazy, right?
Well, and you know what they're not doing? They're not doing what we just talked about. This gnat is killing me. I have one light on this room. I might turn my lights on so it stops doing it. Sorry about that, guys. There's a gnat flying around my camera light. The thing they're not doing is practicing what we just talked about, which is separating yourself your critical thought process versus your emotions. These people on the other side are now gripped on so emotionally to what they believe that it's impossible to separate. And I think this process is separating us to an extreme level, to the point where we end up having to jump ship and come back to the middle, where we can begin to make disagreements great again and have these conversations. Because at this point, we are so bipolar, it's insane. And our side, as far as I can see, is starting to buy on to that thought process, where these decisions are not emotional. Believe me, we still have a lot of very emotional people. I just coined a term this morning, QDS, right? So we have Trump derangement syndrome, and we also have Q derangement syndrome. And that Q derangement syndrome is within our own movement, and that's for real. There are MAGAs that hate people that follow Q. They say that we make them look horrible, we make them look bad, we embarrass them, and meanwhile, we're getting like 15 Q proofs a day, right? So it's an interesting thing that's now been thrown into the mix. I think it was always there, but it's becoming very prevalent as the Q posts start to become more and more and more relevant and with what we're going through. And that's going to lead me into my next question with you. But let me take just 1 second to say thank you before I lose them. So Dave from News Treason gifted a $20 Rumble rant. He said, "Keep up the good fight, gentlemen." Dave, stay tuned, buddy, because I am going to spotlight some of the stuff that you and I were working on the last couple of days. And Braves Piano with a cookie over on pill.net. Thank you very, very much. Also, Max Force with the can. I love Mac. Max got his own show over on pill.net. Highly suggest going to check that dude out. He's a little bit crazy. I don't think he'll be offended by me saying that. I love that dude. He's awesome. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on a lot. That dude's abrasively loving. So yes, QDS, Dave. That's my new term. So I want to ask you, Alpha, as we're a little bit over halfway through this show. I asked you pre-show and you left it kind of mysterious. How do you feel about Q?
The $1 million question, right? It's one I get asked. It's definitely one of the top, not even top 10, top 5 questions that I get asked. So before y'all start slinging tomatoes or throwing kisses, just hear me out in its completion. The question that usually gets presented to me is, Alpha, is Q real? And I think they're actually asking the wrong question, because the answer to that one is super simple. Yes. You can go to the boards. It exists. It is there. So yes, it's real. I think the intention behind that is, Alpha, do you think Q is this good guy operation that people present? I think that's what the intention of that question is. And so this is what I always tell my audience, because I think there's a huge responsibility, and I think you would agree with me, but I'll speak for myself that, I'm approaching 8 million views, bro. Can you believe that? Awesome. 8 million views. What that tells me is you better be very responsible with what you say, right? When it's opinion, let people know it's opinion. When it's fact, let people know it's fact. And when you don't know, just say you don't know, because it's okay not to know. And so my opinion when it comes to the matter surrounding Q is A, yes, it's real. B, is it a bad guy operation? Is it a kid down in his basement? Or is it these good guys that are facilitating something for us? Well, the easiest one to eliminate for me is the dude down in his basement, because if that was the case, dude would have gotten exposed by either one of those. Bad guys or good guys would have exposed him right away. I know people use VPNs. That delays the process. It doesn't stop the process. The technology that exists out there, and I know because I've used it, if we want to know who you are, where you are, and what you're using, it's absolutely easy for us to do that within a matter of just a few hours. Doesn't matter what type of encryption you use. So just everybody be aware of that. Don't matter what platform you're on, you're delaying the process, you're not stopping the process. So hopefully everybody's smart with what they're doing. Now, if it's a good guy operation, and let me say this, I do lean towards this is a white hat operation. That is where I'm leaning. But I have to be prepared for everything, right? That's just the tactical mindset of how I've operated for almost 2/3 of my life. So let's just go. I'll start with the dark one so I can end on a positive note with this part. If it's a bad guy operation, then you have to ask yourself, well, what would be the motive? Now, would that motive be to get people to subject themselves to allowing another entity, take place and control all this stuff? I mean, you could make that argument, and I understand that. But with that, the risk factor, it's gone you've essentially created an atmosphere of anons, private investigators, citizen journalists, that it's like a shark. Once you taste the blood in the water, you ain't stopping. And so if it was the bad guys that were just trying to facilitate just enough, the risk factor of that just enough is the variable where I kind of just I don't think it's that, because they're going to keep digging. They're going to keep going. Just because you tell them to stop, it doesn't work that way. The train's in motion. So, but to make the bad guy argument, you could also say, Well, we look at what's happening in Venezuela, we look at what's happening in Europe, we look at what's happening in all these countries where people are just fed up with their country, and we see full-blown riots and government officials being pulled out of their palaces and stuff. And we don't see that happening in America. And you would have to then make the argument, well, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? And that's a whole separate conversation. So, you know, I don't personally think that it is the bad guys that are doing the Q operation. If it is, I'm prepared for the counter. And then that's why I tell everybody the only time I've ever seen people get hurt, whether it be combat or in law enforcement, is when the element of surprise hits them, and then you follow that with shock. And if there's nothing, if you don't have a preconceived plan, shock is what takes over, and then shock hurts you. So if you at least entertain, because I know everybody's like grinding their teeth and they want to start punching Alpha through the screen. All I'm saying is just entertain that there is a 0.00001% chance that it's bad, and then just have a plan for that. If it turned out that it was, what's your plan for that? What's your counter for that? Now let's get to what I think 99.99999% of the audience believes, and I lean towards, is it is a good guy thing. And like I said, there's a lot of reasons to prove that. A lot of the arguments people make against Q is not even addressed on the boards. These are anons that facilitated their own understanding of things, which, took it in a different direction. Q never said sit on your couch. Q never said don't do anything. It's been quite the opposite.
Did say trust the plan, which can be perceived incorrectly.
Well, and this is what I'll say to that, Joe. When I went to war, our whether it be our major or the captain or our platoon sergeant, they give us a plan, and we're trusting the plan.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't just sit in our vehicles, though. We were trusting the plan that was put in front of us, which was directions for us to go and win.
Amen.
So I think, I always tell people, trust the plan doesn't mean be idle. It's just saying trust this plan that's being implemented and recognize what's your part in that plan, and then do it. Do whatever your part is. And I think when you look at it from the white hat perspective, and I'll tell you why I believe it truly is the white hat one, but I'll never say 100%, is because I have experienced things, Joe, that you cannot explain unless there is outside involvement. And then just me knowing that a third of my life was involved in law enforcement, we make sure that it's an impossibility. Well, at least this is my old way of thinking. We thought we were making sure that the opportunity for outside motivations to interfere with these things was brought to a minimum. And there's a lot of safety measures that are in place for that. There's checks, there's technology. And for me to see things that are happening, whether it be within the district attorney's office, whether it be in my own case, I'm like, this goes beyond, it's either I'm a crazy person or this goes beyond the scope of there's something that exists that has the power and ability to circumvent all that. And the only way you can explain that would be with a white hat thing. Now, funny enough, since, I did the 9/11 show 2 days ago, a gentleman I interviewed on there, his name's Dave Von Kleist. He's one of the original 9/11 dudes. And when we were having a conversation, I don't know if this was on the show or in private, but I know he wouldn't mind because we've developed a good friendship. But we I don't remember how it happened, but we got on the conversation, Joe, of white hats. And actually, this is how it happened. He was sharing a story with me of he had received an invitation to a location, and when he got to that location, it was a bunch of people like him that were, pushing the at least the alternative information to what was being pushed on 9/11. And the gentleman that, all these people were in this private meeting. And when the gentleman starts this conversation, he's introducing himself. He closes, and I'm one of the white hats. Now, this is all the way back to, I think, a year or two afterwards. So this would have probably been around 2002, 2003. And it's the only information, it's the only story I've ever heard of someone being present where a physical person actually identified with that title. And I don't think Dave has any reason to lie, given all the shit that this man has been subjected to. So that tells me, well, there's at least that proof where there's only 1 degree of separation to where I'm hearing the information. And the equivalent, it would be like you and me and all of us content creators all of a sudden being invited to some type of meeting organization, and then as the information is being presented to us, somebody would tell us that, like, this was that, but this was, back then. And so they're most definitely real. And I can't say my opinion is that the white hats are real. And the reason being, Joe, so when I was out in Iraq, I was very fortunate to be part of a very badass unit. And, some of the missions we were tasked with were getting some of the guys that you saw on those cards. And then we would get them and we would transport them to, these 3-letter people that were involved. Now, remember, I'm just a young Marine, dude. I'm a baby, right? And I remember we had this dude. We had him in the back of our vehicle. This is back when you could have sandbags over their head, because we didn't have, pillowcases and blindfolds. It wasn't a method of torture. It was just so they didn't know where we were going to disorient.
Shout out, Big Mike, my pillow. Go ahead.
Hell yeah. Y'all better get them pillows, man. I'm telling you, support the dude. If your neck hurts, it's probably because you ain't got a My Pillow. So, but I remember one time, right now, we have this, I was part of I was a scout that was on a LAV vehicle. So it's like the Army's Bradley, except we got tires instead of tracks, and our metal is really thin and not reinforced. Like it's the poor man's version of a Bradley for the Marines, right? And we get to sit in the back. But I remember thinking, like, man, RPG can hit us, because they would do that. Rounds can hit us. Like, this thing ain't that thick, right? And so you always have this worry as you go into like these really urban areas where there's high ground, right? Because that high ground's always a threat. And so I remember we go. Now remember, there's in our platoon, there's 4 of these bad boys. That is this 25 millimeter Bushmaster cannon on it, aside from all the other guns and all the guns that we have on there as scouts, right? So we're armed to the teeth, and I was still concerned. We pull into this little shop where we're supposed to meet these guys, right? Now, these guys are there with a single black SUV, right? They're wearing khakis. They got the beard, right? Most of them are older dudes. Well, I should be careful with older, because now I'm about the age that these guys were back then. But they're like their late 40s to late 50s, right? Older dudes. They got this stuff. This color's in their beard and in their hair. And they're suited up. And they don't look scared at all. And I remember thinking, like, y'all are in a freaking SUV, bro. Like, I'm worried in this big thing. And it was my first interaction and experience with actually working with spooks in real life. So I'll bypass all that information to get to that part of the story. So we end up escorting them and this particular target to a destination that was very close to the Saudi Arabian border. Right? Like, we were driving for a long time. It reminds me, you remember those Sprite commercials where the dude's like looking around and you just see the cracked dirt everywhere, and he's like thirsty. Yeah. Dude, that's what it looked like. And there's a building out in the middle of this nowhere. So we go there, and at that point, we're hands off. They do their thing, and we're providing security for this building. And what you see that happens from that intelligence gathering, that was granted, where there's some security clearance that we have from that unit and that kind of work, but at the end of the day, we're still kind of considered just like the patrol pups, nothing to the scope of them. So it made me think. I remember as we were driving back, I remember thinking, what's going on with what I don't know? Like, America, the world doesn't even know about what just happened here. What about the stuff I don't even know about? What does that look like? And what intel is getting gathered out of that? And so understanding that this has been going on for well beyond our lifetimes, that means that that means in a white hat operation, that same level of skill set exists. And so me having that personal experience with something that I know doesn't even reach the threshold of that. What it tells me is that when we're talking white hats, I don't think people truly understand the scope of how badass mofos these dudes are.
This makes me want to ask you, bro. First of all, I can't believe it took me this long to say thank you for your service, but I genuinely mean that. My old man was a Marine. It was an aspiration of mine, but my shit ass life kind of got in the way, right? In the way that I handled myself. So it's a regret I have. So I look up to guys like you that went through that type of process. Is there a moment for a guy like you, and this is probably going to go right with what you were just saying, but that you realize how compartmentalized the military is, and that probably the guys above you don't even really know what's going on?
Yes. So when the first Gulf War happened, I was in middle school. Yeah, I think it was like 5th grade or 6th grade when the first one happened. And I remember we grew up poor, so we had this couch that kind of folded out into a bed. And I remember, so I'm sleeping on that or laying on that, and I'm watching CNN of all things, right? I'm watching CNN on the tube. And when you're watching that, you're getting the schematics, this unit's here, this unit's there. You're seeing the graphic arrows. The audience knows more about the way a campaign looks than the service people that are actually out in combat. Because when we were out there, I knew what our unit and company was tasked with. I had a good idea what 1st Marine Division, what our role as part of being in that was. But you don't really know what the Army's doing. Like, you're not the officers. So it's very, very compartmentalized because, they didn't even really have that much information, because they would still share it amongst each other. And we all had enough relationships there that some of it would get communicated that wouldn't get, to the whole entire platoon or company. And what you ended up realizing is, well, they're not telling us because they don't know either. And so you think about, like, well, how much of this exists that way?
I want to challenge that, though. I think CNN's version of the schematic and the arrows is a smokescreen.
Yes, I'll agree.
So to say that the public is getting more information, no, in my opinion, they're getting lied to. So there's a reason that you guys are held compartmentalized. At least you're not being lied to. You're being told to play out a task, whatever it might be in front of you, and the TV is smoke screening the country. Neither of which,
and that's very true. Because here's something, and I can offer 100% proof to what you just said. When you guys were told that the war started, we were already nearly a day across that border in the fight. And we had already knew about, I would say, half a day before that we were already on the go. And we already knew a few days before that this was about to go down, because all of a sudden you're starting to load these vehicles. All of a sudden you're starting, because we were sitting in Kuwait, because we got to Kuwait on Valentine's Day, and the war didn't officially start till March 18th. So all of a sudden there was this extreme change. All of a sudden there's weapons checks, there's auditing, there's all this. We knew, okay, here in the next few days, this is going to pop off. So you're 100% right with that.
This is going to make me do something I wanted to save for the next show, but I don't care. Well, I'll do it with Dave too. Have you tried to figure out, you're on Badlands, so I'm sure you're well aware of the devolution theory, correct?
Mm-hmm.
As am I, and all of this audience. I believe devolution, if it's not 100% correct, it's pretty damn close, right? I'm of that mindset. I'm sure John's talked about Article 2 of the Constitution. It's been a while since I read all of his articles. Honestly, it's one of the ways I cut my teeth starting to try to podcast. I read his articles out loud to a very small audience, but it was the way that I started putting myself in front of the camera. I'm super grateful for the articles John wrote. But have you gone back? So I wanted to get into some of the Q stuff. Let me ask this first. Do you believe that it could be so compartmentalized that there will be less than 10, 3 of which are not military, at the top of an intelligence operation, like the Q drops lead us to believe?
Yes. Because that doesn't necessarily mean that the gap of information between those 10 and the department heads outside of that doesn't necessarily mean that there's like a 90% information gap. It just means that there's this small group that knows the totality of absolutely everything, but the next group behind that can still be privy to a vast majority of information, just doesn't know the entire scope. So yeah, I do believe it is possible.
Okay. So every once in a while, I search the drops because it's what I do. It seems to be aligning, especially as of lately, with everything that's happening. And I got a couple more examples. Do you have a time restraint?
No,
Yeah.
no. We're good. We're
All
good.
right, cool. All right. So here's the drop that I stumbled across, and I'm a very visual learner, right? So that's why you'll see it when I post 99 times out of 100, it's because I came across the video that triggered something in my brain, right? So, and a lot of times I'll do it the opposite, where I'll go through deltas or I'll just start reading the drops, go back through things and try to connect with what we're seeing as far as the presented reality that we're being given. And so I came across drop 11 yesterday, and there's a video that I'm going to show that blows my mind. So in drop 11, it says that the key, colon, is military intelligence versus the FBI, CIA, and NSA. No approval or congressional oversight. State secrets upheld under Supreme Court. Who is the commander in chief of the military? Under what article can the president impose military intelligence takeover of investigations for three-letter agencies? This grabbed my attention so heavy because just a week ago, I played an old video I have in my archives of Donald Trump talking about a specific article. Why is this so very important? Who surrounds POTUS? They lost this very important power, the one area of the government not corrupt and directly serves POTUS. Now, I also brought into the fact that to this thought process that Donald Trump started a new branch of military in the Space Force, which we know is an umbrella for intelligence agencies within the military. Okay, so if there's a secret article that gives Donald Trump the power to instruct military intelligence to take over all of the three-letter agencies' investigations, then he would have caught them all, would he not?
Absolutely.
Well, it turns out Article 2 gives him just that such power. Check this out, bro. And I just read all of Article 2 yesterday. I have just the title of it here. So the president's intelligence functions derived from his constitutional offices under Article 2 of the Constitution as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, as sole organ of the nation in foreign relations, and as a chief law enforcement officer. Now, I don't just buy into information, but when Donald Trump confirms things, I believe him because 25th Amendment will not, affect me, but it will come back to haunt Joe Biden. He always ends up being right well in advance. So when you can find an old school clip of Donald Trump highlighting something that you just found as potentially a possibility, that's when I get very intrigued. Listen to this.
Very simply, Article 2 would
Stand by. Back it up.
Article 2, where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, but I don't even talk about that. It's a thing called Article 2. Nobody ever mentions Article 2. More importantly, Article 2 allows me to do whatever I want. Article 2 would have allowed me to fire him.
So it sounds
But
like
I wasn't going to fire. You know why? Because I watched Richard Nixon go around firing everybody, and that didn't work out too well. So very simply, Article 2 would allow me to do. I could have done anything I wanted. I don't even bring it up because we don't even get there. Absolutely, I have Article 2. It gives me all of these rights at a level that nobody has ever seen before. We don't even talk about Article 2. So, they rule no collusion, no obstruction. Very simple.
Bro, if he has the right, look, in that drop, it also asks what circumstances have to be true for this to be possible. Well, we can go back to devolution. In devolution, John very clearly shows that the country had been attacked with COVID and that the elections were attempted to be stolen through COVID. So if we have tampered with elections and we have an attack on our own soil, then that gives the right for Donald Trump to use Article 2 to legitimately tell military intelligence to take over all of the three-letter agency's investigations. And if that's the case, that makes two things in my mind very, very clear. Military is the only way, and I called them all. All of a sudden, he's completely right.
So something I mentioned earlier in the show, and I don't know if people caught it or not, which leads into what you're saying here. What would allow, these specific things, these powers in Article 2? This goes back to Speaker Mike Johnson. he made the statement. The video's out there. If you look for it, I don't think it's too hard to find. And I posted it a couple months ago. The speaker, Mike Johnson, comes out and says, "I'm a wartime speaker." We're not in any wars. So what is he talking about? Unless, Trump made the moves he did, outlined the things he said, an attack on our infrastructure because of the elections, bioweapon attack, on our country, because of COVID and the pandemic. 100%. And this goes back to, when you look at Devolution with John, one of the most interesting things that I found in that, it's still one of the most interesting things because we're very limited on what we know about, is the PEDS. And you look at, the Trump's administration, how many were done, the Department of Energy doing the most out of anybody. And it's just one of those things where, Congress doesn't have access to that. Like, to go back to the conversation, it's a small scope of people that have access to the PEDS. So could Q operation be one of those PEDS? And I think that is where the operation is actually mapped out in its completeness, is through a PED or PEDS.
You ready?
Fire it off, baby.
And me are here for this horrible thing. I mean, it's a number of people have said it, and I feel it, actually. I'm a wartime president. This is a war. This is a war, different kind of a war than we've ever had. I want to say that I know that this is a challenging time for all Americans. We're enduring a great national trial, and we will prove that we can meet the moment. I want to assure the American people that we're doing everything we can each day to confront and ultimately defeat this horrible, invisible enemy. We're at war. In a true sense, we're at war, and we're fighting an invisible enemy.
Than that.
The team and me are
in
here.
a true sense, we're at war.
Yes, man. You don't just get to ignore those things.
No.
Like, that is huge, man.
Well,
huge.
Okay, so this is opinion, but I'm going to say it as fact because I believe it to be fact. But with the Fugazi Joe Biden administration and the 4 years we were just presented with, which I believe are a controlled presentation of the realities we face, people forget how much Donald Trump has freaking told us what's happening. He's literally told us. And Q just keeps leaving Easter eggs lay all over the damn place. Or Q, whatever you want to call it.
So I'm going to see if I can find this for you real quick to supplement what you put right there, because I truly do think it's that important.
We got more too. I'm not sure. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna present this quick. So this was Dave from News Treason that picked up on this. I had already started connecting the fact that they were very related, and Dave picked up on something that most people didn't. So Joe Biden goes on 9/11 to the same firehouse that he was at 3 years prior. He puts on the freaking Trump hat, and he also, for people that aren't aware, took a picture with this is 3 years before Alpha. This picture with I'll be back, the Trump kids, and the Quaker State box up right over his shoulder with the big fat Q on the side of it. This was 3 years prior to the hat incident. Exactly the same place. Well, this gets even more interesting because he again he took a picture with freaking MAGA kids.
That is what with the Terminator. I'll be back, Trump too.
3 years later, same exact place, same exact day. Biden's his own Delta.
That is wild.
You got to be kidding me, bro. Like I had already put together the connection, and Dave from News Treason was like, "Dude, that's the same day. That's the same place. That's FORPOG.
100%.
That is 100% Ghost in the Machine."
100%.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Were you
no. It's all, I'm telling you, man, because I saw the pictures of Biden putting the Trump hat on, and I was like, no, I'm like, there's just no way. Like, there's no. They're gonna come out. This one was CGI or something like that, and then it turns out the dude really put on a Trump hat. If that's not a shot across the bow, I mean, you have what the normies believe is the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, who, is told endorse Kamala, right? She's running for president. This the normie narrative. She does a debate against Trump, and then after that, you have her boss put on a Trump hat. Like you want to talk about trolling, man? That's master level trolling right there, right?
If you think it's not real, if you think it's fake, those are doctored photos, then listen.
You old fart. Oh my gosh, bro. Oh my gosh, man. That is wild, Joe. That is wild, bro.
You want to know what happened the same day? Do you have something you want to throw in? Because I'll put it up.
No, I'm still looking for it. So go ahead. I don't think I'm going to be able to find it. So I'll have to send it to you. You can show it to your people later.
So Kamala Harris did a speech yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Here's just a little piece, just so everybody can be as angry as I am with the whole thing, because it was disgusting. It was not fun to watch. But here's a short clip.
Knowing in that critical stage of your child's development, you might need a little help, not just to get by, but to get ahead. And I will always put the middle class
all of a sudden she's talking like she's from the hood again, right?
Mm-hmm.
and working families first. I know where I came from. I know where I came from.
Okay, so here's the really interesting part.
Wait, go back to the image, because I just want to make sure I'm not the only one to see it. Pause it right there. You see the lady off to the right hand side with the it literally says cat lady, bro, with all the stuff going on, and she's wearing a shirt that says cat lady. It's like, come on.
I didn't even notice that. That's so funny. I'll have to show some of Trump's memes.
Oh my god.
Which is also a Q hat tip, by the way. It's bro, this is about to get really weird. Okay, you ready for this?
Fire it
so
off,
you're right. Look, that's really funny. Okay. Do you know how long that speech was? Exactly 17 minutes.
Oh.
Who speaks for what presidential candidate? I did the subtraction of the start and the end. It's almost exactly 17 minutes. Okay. All right. It's just a little weird. That's just a little weird one, right? So, check this out.
Weinstein's now facing new criminal charges in New York. A grand jury returned a new indictment against Weinstein today as the Manhattan DA's office prepares to retry the disgraced movie mogul after the reversal of his rape conviction earlier this year. ABC News senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky is here with the latest on that story. Aaron, what do we know at this point about these charges and Weinstein's arraignment?
We don't know the exact charges because the indictment remains sealed until Weinstein does appear for arraignment. He had emergency heart surgery a couple of days ago, so he was not in court today. But when the judge asked for an update on the case, prosecutors revealed that they had secured a new indictment. And while we don't know the exact charges, we know that prosecutors had presented evidence of 3 alleged sexual assaults by 3 different women, varying time periods over the last couple of decades. And those look like they could form the basis of these new charges.
Aaron, Weinstein was not in court today due to a heart issue. What are you learning about that?
Yeah, he had a stent put in, his lawyers said, and he's now going to be moved on a semi-permanent basis from Rikers Island, the big jail complex in New York City, to Bellevue Hospital, one of the city-run hospitals where there's a prison ward, and he's going to be held there, the judge said, just for his own good care. He didn't want anything else to happen to him and no sense in moving him. When it becomes appropriate, tentatively, perhaps as soon as next week, he'll appear in court as his attorneys and prosecutors discuss next steps. And if he does appear, that's when he would be arraigned on the new charges and they'll be revealed publicly.
All right, ABC News senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky. Thanks, Aaron. Scene's now facing new criminal.
Hold on.
Rewind it, Joe, towards the end of the video. It's one of the cops that's behind him. And the cop will be off to the right-hand screen.
Next week, he'll appear in court as his attorneys and prosecutors discuss next steps. And if he does appear, that's when he would be arraigned on the new charges and they'll be revealed publicly.
All right, ABC News senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky. Thanks, Aaron.
And he's going to be held there, the judge said.
All right, pause it there. So, I'm always looking at everything, man. And they do a zoomed in version. So this cop that's standing behind him has a 13 that's on his wrist.
I see it. Yeah.
So what's interesting?
I see a Roman numeral 13 on his hand.
Yeah, Roman numeral 13 on his hand. The 10 and then the 3 columns. Now, if he was in the undercover field or something like that, I could see this. Because 13, especially in the law enforcement community, is 100% seen as a gang related tattoo, right? Especially like with sureños and things like that. I'm just baffled that you have a court officer that has that tattoo in uniform. Like, it's not something you see a lot, man. Usually, agencies have different policies and they have softened up a lot on tattoos within law enforcement, but this is a specific tattoo, man, in like the gang community. And so you would think either one, he's not going to have, a public viewed position, or I don't know, man. It's just something that caught my attention. That strikes me as weird, very weird.
Well, tell me if this grabs your attention. September 12th, yesterday. Exact Delta. 3 sex abusers, traffickers taken down. Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Oops. Hold on. There we go. Attempts to normalize will fail. Who will be next? Q. Exact Delta.
To the day, man.
I mean, that is insane. He gets a new public indictment. They talk about sealed indictments, and Harvey Weinstein gets shoved back into the limelight on an exact 4-year Delta. Hat tip to Dave, by the way. Again, me and Dave both were on this one at the same time. He actually beat me in posting it by like 6 minutes.
I mean, 4-year Delta to the day, man. And I'll tell you, it's interesting because, like I said, the court date they wanted to give me was January 6th. So that would have been a exact 4-year Delta. And of course I said, nah, we ain't doing that. But these are those little things that you look at in your life. You're just like, the famous post, right? How many times can something happen before it's statistically impossible to be a coincidence? It's like, come on, man.
Hold on. I'm gonna tell you what Q said about that. Hold on 1 second. So I know this drop very well because I love it. Yep, here we go. So this is Q's version of that, and I love this drop. Oh shoot, bigger this way. There we go. Only Anons can fully appreciate the continued validations and confirmations through covert series of mathematically impossible coincidences means in order to maintain structural integrity. Wheels up, Q. And so that is why we look for all these that's why we look for all these coincidences. And I got another one for you, Alpha. Tell me what you think of this. Okay. So you, just like everyone else, saw the meme war that started, what was it? Saturday or whatever it was, a few days ago. It was literally trending the first day, right? So we had Donald Trump even came out and started doing it himself.
Dude, it's out of control, bro. It's awesome.
So here's the thing that people don't realize. The day it was trending, Alpha, how do you know when something very big is about to drop? Attacks increase from all directions. Ready the memes. 9/9/2018.
Wow.
That was the day it was trending.
Dude, bro.
They're dropping Easter eggs all over the place.
Wow. Oh man. That's wild, bro.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. I actually dropped that when I hung out with I found it live while I was on the air with Stormy Patriot Joe and Absolute 1776 on their 9/11 special on 9/10, because I was like, all these memes. I'm like, wait, I just read the Deltas this morning, like I always do. I get up, I read my Bible, I pray, I read the Deltas. This is what I do. It's my morning routine. And then I watch the news and try to see if anything connects to the drops, because lately it's doing it damn near every day. And so I was on the show with them live and they're showing me these memes and I was like, wait a second. Wait, hold on. And I went back to the drops, and it wasn't the only one. There was 3 drops about memes. That was just the one that was most, relevant. Meanwhile, Kamala hates me, and there's kittens up there.
See,
Yep. Yeah.
I like the way they broke up her name into the red, white, and blue, which is also kind of the way when Trump pronounces her name. Kamala. They kind of did that with people.
Oh, he was calling her Kamabla.
Uh-huh.
And the B connected to the drops.
Yeah.
This is why I can't help. The more and more, the further we go along, the more proofs that come out. I just am having a hard time acting like they're coincidences. It's impossible. There's just been too many proofs. And so I think the question for me doesn't come down to whether or not Q is a good operation, because Trump is Q plus. You can't possibly take me off of that at this point. It's been proven over and over 1,000 times. So,
and you remind me of one of probably my most important takes personally when it comes to, well, how do you know it's not something good versus something bad? And it's what you just said right now. You absolutely cannot separate Trump from Q.
You can't.
Impossible. As many of as the references he's done, impossible. So if you were to believe that Q was a black hat operation, by default, that means Trump is associated to that, which means Trump would be a bad guy. And if that's the case, then holy shit, like the scenario that we've all pictured, worst case scenario just exponentially became way worse than that. And I don't believe that, prepared for it, but I don't believe it. And I think when you look at like I said, it's impossible to separate Trump from Q, so it has to be a white hat military operation that's taking place. Now it's just everybody finding out what's your role. What's your role in this?
So I'm going to ask you the tough question. And this is all woo woo, right? It's an impossible question to answer.
Make woo woo great again, baby.
What do you think? Do you think we have a regular election? Like, how does this play out? What's your favorite theory on what happens next?
Damn it, Joe! You want to give me all the impossible questions, bro?
I'll do it too. I'm not gonna throw you under the bus.
No, it's a good one because, like I said, you got to be prepared for everything. Hindsight's always 20/20, and so since now we understand, how complex the theft has been in this election quote selection process. It's been going on for decades, if not forever, right? So then you have to ask yourself the question, well, then how did Trump win in 2016? There's the concept of, too big to rig, right? Algorithms weren't set up for that and all that other stuff. It's the deep state, you guys. The deep state has been rigging forever. So it is my opinion that in 2016, the white hats didn't interfere with the election, although technically you could argue on a technicality it would be considered interfering, but they didn't steal the election in 2016. What the white hats did was prevent the steal from happening in 2016. And the reason I go start with 2016 to bring us to here is because that means, if I'm correct, that means the deep state also understands, hey, We had everything in place for the steal. Didn't matter how many people came out to vote. We had everything in place, and they stopped us. So, but then we now go to 2020, and it's like, okay, well, again, is it because it was too big to rig, right? Well, that can't be the case because through a normie's lens, we lost 2020, the way the narrative goes. So then the deep state has to look back. If I'm the deep state, I'm like, okay, hold on real quick. Hold on. They stopped us from stealing it in 2016. But then they allowed us to take it in 2020 when we thought they were going to stop it again because they were prepared with January 6th. They're prepared with insurrection, assuming that, the story being told is as it is. So the deep state would have to say, okay, well, they took it in 2016, but they didn't take it in 2020. What the hell are they going to do in 2024? And, and there's a lot that goes into this. You got to show them, you can't just tell them, you got to show them. Like 2020 to 2024 is what America and the rest of the world absolutely needed to put us into the position of the court of public opinion, which I think is one of the most powerful things that exists.
Hell yeah.
So in 2024, here are the scenarios that I see. There's the election ain't even going to happen, right? Like, they're going to unfold Plandemic 2.0. We're going to see, operations that take place with the UN soldiers and all these different adversaries that have entered through our southern border. Iran and Israel and our government are going to facilitate war. And I'm painting the bad picture one first, everybody. The scary one is going to do World War III. We already got our fleets out there. We'd have to pull our fleet that's over there by Taiwan to address it with North Korea. All of our, fighting people are pretty much deployed overseas. And then all of a sudden, and this is where, and I've said it before, this precedence was set in Ukraine with Zelensky. And when this happened, I was looking to see if there was pushback, and there was no world pushback by anybody. But what Zelensky said is because we're in a war, we're going to postpone the elections because everybody needs to be able to vote. And there was zero pushback from any world leader. So when that happened, that really got me nervous because I was just like, okay, they just set precedents, which means if all of a sudden everything that is outlined, even if just a part of that unfolds, you could have the current administration say something to the sort of, well, we're going to postpone the elections because everybody needs to be able to vote. And because we're seeing it kind of unfold, Aurora, Colorado, in other states where, if they make it, if they create the perception that the streets aren't safe, major cities, think 10 of them, then we're going to postpone the elections until we get everything under control. That is one way that we don't have an election, at least in November. The other possibility I see happening is that, the boards were, hey, you gotta show them. And that's what 20 to 2024 was. And now 2024 is going to be exactly what it was in 2016. They're going to deploy everything they can to steal it, but just the way they stopped to steal in 2016, they're going to stop to steal in 2024. And then, the Democrats will, or the deep state, because it's an establishment, will show whatever hands they have to try to stop that. But we actually see Trump win the presidency in 2024. To me, those are kind of the most likely ones that are probably going to unfold. So either a really dark and scary one, or, we're going to see 2024 represent what happened in 2016.
I think everything what you just said is brilliant. Let me do for a second. Look, I knew today was going to be a little rough because Trump was speaking at the same time, but it looks like just a few hundred of you guys just jumped in for the end of the show. First of all, if you could, please, this show's been amazing. Go back and watch it from the beginning because Alpha's been such an amazing guest. It stinks that Trump's now doing like a rally every 3 minutes. So if you guys could go back and watch the whole thing, hit the thumbs up. The goal on the thumbs, if I can just do a little like whoring here for just a second, the goal is like 700, and that's what puts you on the leaderboard. And we've done that the last 3 shows. So if I could just put that ploy out there, you guys, I think this show deserves it. As we're nearing the end here, it's been awfully amazing. So I'm just going to put that out there to all you guys that just joined here recently. Please go back and watch. Please hit that thumbs up. I want to throw this out there because the first thing you talked about is literally talked about in the drops, Alpha. Was Trump asked to run for president with assurances made to prevent tampering? 2016. I've been saying this for a long time until I found it in the drops. There's no look, if you believe that our elections have been stolen for decades, then Trump didn't just win 2016 because we outvoted them and caught them by surprise. No, there's a machine that has been stealing our elections and infiltrating our country for decades. So how could Trump win unless the vote was protected? Well, that should then lead you to believe that when Donald Trump narrative seeded that they were going to steal the 2020 election, and then they did in front of your eyes, that they knew something. Military intelligence, somebody knew something. So it was either a full-on presentation because we were already in the operation, or it was a sting. There's only two things it could be. It certainly wasn't stolen.
I want to add something to that. Can you bring that drop right back up? So right below asked to run, the next sentence is, how is POTUS always 5 steps ahead? And, there's a lot of applications to it, business, personal, but, the boards reference, chess a lot. We talk 5D chess a lot. And when you're talking in chess, 5 steps ahead, the difference between being, because you've also heard the steps, oh, you're always 2 steps ahead, right? You don't usually hear 5 steps ahead. Well, in the Anon community, you probably do a lot because, of the boards. But if you were never a member of the Anon community and didn't look at this, typically you hear, oh, he's 2 steps ahead. He's 2 steps ahead. 2 steps ahead is, there's an immediate move. So the difference between 2 and 5 is when you're 5 steps ahead, you're prepared for multiple scenarios. And I find that interesting. And it's kind of why I've always kind of directed my thought process of, being prepared for multiple outcomes. It's a fluid timeline. And so when I see that particular sentence there again, always 5 steps ahead, to me, that's an acknowledgement that the white hats are prepared for multiple scenarios on how this plays out.
Well, and Alpha, so we just a minute ago talked about Article 2 and being able to instruct the military intelligence to take over 3-letter agencies' investigations, right? Well, hold on. Oh, that stinks. Hold on. The last line was, who is helping POTUS? Well, if we know that military intelligence is potentially taking over 3-letter agencies' investigations, now this is a few weeks old. I'm sure you've seen it, but
Been a friend of ours for a long time. Where's Jason? Nice tall character right here. Thank you very much, Jason. And somebody that's been with me from day one, he's a real general. We have the real generals and we have the fake woke generals that did so poorly in Afghanistan, should have all been fired. But this is a real general, Keith Kellogg. Right, Keith? And this is a great group. It's good to see you, Keith. He's been with me from before day one, right? He said, that guy should run. We got to get him to run. I like those guys. They were here before I ran. There's quite a few of them, too. We have the front.
What?
Holy smokes, bro.
Right. What? General Kellogg was here. He asked me to run, and there was quite a few of them. Generals, the real generals.
Holy smokes, bro. I've heard it before, but given the conversation we had, this hit so differently.
Right.
Holy smokes, bro. Dude, do you have that on a post, a social media post?
Yes, yeah.
Dude,
Yep.
Make
Yeah,
sure to DM me because I want to requote that for my peeps.
Yeah, absolutely. I can send that to you.
Yeah. Holy smokes, dude.
Yep. So who's helping POTUS? Military is the only way. I caught them all.
So here, something I want to share with you guys. Here, give me a little less. It should take me just a few seconds to find this real quick. Let's see. And I think I might have shared this with you guys last time when you guys came on mine. Not positive, but it's definitely worth. Here we go. It's definitely worth bringing up again because it's back to you. Let me zoom in so people can see. All right, let me share this for you, and then I'll explain. There's things that make you go, actually, this is probably not going to vote well for me considering what you said earlier. But So this is the 8th PSYOP group, right? Yeah, I shared this with you last time, right?
I'm not. It's been a while.
So-
Go ahead, do it again.
So a couple years ago, I was doing a post and I went to type in, I was going to tag the 4th PSYOP group. And so when I went to tag the 4th PSYOP group, 8th PSYOP popped up. And I was like, oh, I'll just tag them too. But then I was just like, well, why did they populate? Like, I wasn't putting their handle in. So then I click on their profile and this is what I see on the screen. 8th PSYOP group is following you. So then I was like, oh, maybe this is somebody that's just pretending to be the 8th PSYOP group, because you got people out there that are doing it, right? So then I go and I go to their link tree, right? And then from their link tree, I go to, let's see, which one's the official? Oh, so you go to their official website, right? And it's official because you have soc.mil. It's a PSYOP group, right? And so then when you go back into their Twitter thing, it brings you, I'm not going to share it. Oops. Oh. Andrea Porter's out there showing her back. Hopefully it's a real woman, not a fake one. But it takes you back to 8th PSYOP group. So in other words, I vetted that this is the actual real social media handle. So then I was just like, well, why the hell are they following me? like should I be concerned? or should I be like, so I reached out to somebody that I trust and said, hey man, just, communicate with the people I know you have the ability to communicate here. And I just want to know if, I should relocate or put myself in a safe house somewhere or something. And so this person responded back and was like, you're good. Don't sweat it so much. So then I was like, all right, well, he's doing that. I go, well, let's just kind of look at, maybe they're following a bunch of like Anons and, a bunch of us and stuff, content creators. Maybe they're following that. So I go, let's look at who they're following. And so you have U.S. SOCOM, Army Chief of Staff, the 7th Special Forces, All-American, Force-Com, Secretary of the Army, Task and Purpose, Maneuver Intelligence, 1st Infantry. I'm not going to read them all, but it's military, bunch of official military people, right? OpenAI's on there, SpaceX, Undersecretary, right? And so you have a normal person here who's a reporter, but he's a reporter for the Defense Scoop. They've been around for a good minute. United States Space Force, National Guard, Secret Service, Homeland Security, NSA, Office of the DNI. So we'll keep going. DIA, right? Keep going. Elon Musk. Let's see. There was you got a Kamala there, the CIA, and there was another normal person on here too. Here we go. Rachel Riley, she's a military reporter for the Herald. So you have 2 military reporters. The only other normal person they follow is me, bro. So I'm looking at this and I'm just like, what does this mean?
We're looking at it and we're saying Alpha is an operator.
I'm telling you guys, look at where's listen. All right, here's my Warriors Bible right here, right? Listen, I put my hand on the Bible. I've never taken any formal agreement, whether direct or indirect, to be an operator. Now that said, I'd absolutely accept an assignment like that. It's just that's my life has been devoted to it. But that also said, if I was, I would never tell anybody anyways, and I would probably lie to conceal the fact that I was. So nothing that I just did in the last 15 seconds probably matters anyways. But yeah, and man, there's some weird stuff going on with my camera that's pretty interesting too. But
yeah, I see that. As you're doing that, you're getting green screen washed.
It is. That is it. Let me see if I have my.
I got a question for you. So, do you think that it's a coincidence? There you are. You're fixed. Do you think it is a coincidence that you got 4 POG and you've got 8 POG, both psychological operations, and you have 4chan and 8chan?
I do not think that's a coincidence.
Now,
hence my concern when I realized what was going on, bro.
But I'm going back here. I'm trying to pull up something we talked about a few weeks ago, but I want to show you because I'm not sure. You seem to be more of a 2nd generation anon like I am, right? So I am still going back to things that some of the OGs have probably done, ad nauseum. They're tired. But the real cool part is every day more and more people are joining, hence the Great Awakening. It's how the process should go. Man, I'm really far back. I didn't realize it was this far back. Have you ever seen the logo of 8chan or 4chan?
I have, but it refreshed my memory because it's been a minute.
Okay, so here we go. So Chidra, I found it.
It reminds me of the book, like The Never-Ending Story or something like that.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to show you an NSA. Right. So bear with me in the audience if you've seen this on a previous show, but when we have new guests, I like to show things a few times. Besides that, we have new viewers all the time, so bear with me. This is, watch this clip. It's 2 minutes, 43 seconds.
Every day, viruses, malware, and other programs pose threats to our national security.
Software reverse engineering, or SRE, is a crucial skill for cybersecurity professionals, software developers, and security auditors to help wage battle against these threats.
One of the most powerful and versatile SRE tools was created by NSA and released to the public in 2019.
It's called Ghidra.
Ghidra is a framework designed to augment the SRE process and allows cross-platform examination of code.
Users no longer spend their valuable time manually reverse engineering the code. They can now focus on understanding what the program does and how it does it.
Ghidra users have the power to uncover the vulnerabilities and gain insight into.
All right, I'm going to stop this because I don't want to go too long.
You were watching last night's show with me and Can.
Oh yeah, because I love that, dude. I freaking love.
Dude, bring up Goat 2, bro. I want to show the audience something.
Okay, hold on. I'll end this, but watch this quick. So the drops talk about Red Castle, Green Castle. There's a lot of stop and go, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of comms. So you can either take this as the NSA is part of Q because watch this, or Q and whoever's in charge is trolling the shit out of them. There's 8chan. There's 8kun. Are you kidding me? Bro.
We are everywhere. Dude, bring up Goat 2 and go to the scene where Bush and Obama are in the classroom.
That's the very beginning, yeah. I've watched these ad nauseum. I've done shows on almost all of them.
And try to get into the part where it shows the board. And remember where Cannon was talking about the brain being split by, it looks like a lightning bolt or something? Try to get it at that particular scene. Because I'm thinking something.
No way. Are you kidding me? Did I miss something in these videos? You're right, I did. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Bear with me, folks. I just had it up, and for some reason, I closed it back.
I can't wait to go ham on those. I didn't know there was 5.
Yeah. Well, I pick Goat 2 is the one, right? That's the one that is mind-blowing. They're all super weird. But I pick Goat is through and through. The whole thing is mind-blowing. So for anybody that hasn't seen this, I'm gonna have to end up playing the whole thing. I can't just tease everybody with the beginning. So let's just start. I have this in a way though, Alpha, that we can pause and keep going. And we'll do this to wrap the show up. There's a whole bunch of people in here now. We might as well.
All right, cool.
All right, so here's iPet Goat 2. Prepare to have your mind blown if you've never seen it.
And I'll only pause it at that one point, just so I could show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah. This thing is so full of double meanings. It feels like a Trump rally.
Vote me one. Vote me one. Shame on. Shame on. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. For me, take that fold again.
Right there. So I just wanted to bring attention to, in the commercial that they're doing for Shydra, they kept showing the dragon eating everything, right? And look what they show right there.
Alpha, there's another thing I'm going to have to send to you because you guys played this last night. And two regulars on this show, two of my best friends in the world. I'm in a text group with them. I can't even keep up with them. The two of them are insane, but it's JF Non and Smart Paul. Do you know Sapioplex?
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. Amazing.
Dude, they did a Substack. They did a Substack and broke this whole thing down. It will blow your mind. Yeah. And you want to talk about two out there brilliant minds? Don't tell them. They're completely insane and I love them.
Solid people, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So that Substack, I'll have to send you that Substack. I'm gonna have to figure out. It's been a few months, but I'll get it.
One thing I was telling Cam last night is you have evolution, right? But if you look at the way they set up the hangman thing, they made the box look like you could put another letter there, right? On the base of the hangman little thing that they drew.
Yep.
And then what letter is, and I know it's a dunce hat, but what letter is on Bush's head right there?
Yep, that's a D.
So if you put the D in that box.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
I'm telling you, man.
Should we play the whole thing for everybody?
Yeah, we can't tease them like that. We can't tease them. That's just cruel.
For anybody that hasn't seen this, look, it goes through religion. It goes through the all-seeing eye. It goes through globalists, the central banking system. I mean, the things you can list off from the video that this is, and this is a pretty old at this point. And I will share the Substack on our Telegram, as well as send it to you, Alpha, so that you guys can all see Smart Paul and JF Non's breakdown of this video. But it is mind-blowing. Here we go. So look, fully expect when you go to JF Non and Smart Paul's breakdown, every single scene, that flower, on and on, it's all broken down in their insane, absolutely lovable mindset. And man, do they do a good job. Now, hold on. I got to back that up. Do you see what he's wearing, Alpha?
CIA patch, baby.
The freaking Osama bin Laden. Holy crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wait for the transgender stuff. Oil fields. Oh my God, right? We'll put it all in the Telegram right after the show. Bro,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell?
That's
a
exactly
male
what they wanted
appendage.
it to be. Yep.
Right. And wait for what's trapped inside. God wakes up. I mean, seriously. So the first time I showed this, I got to say this, Alpha, because the first time I showed this, I lost a very good relationship. Hold on, I'm going to bring this up while I tell you this. I lost what was something I considered to be a very tight relationship with a person that was coming on my show at the time. At the time, she was the greatest draw on our show. Every time she came on, there was 1,000 more people than there was on any other show. And when I played this, she interpreted it as being satanic. And I still, to this day, I miss her, but I don't see it that way. I see it as they're showing you, just like the plan. I'm an optimist, right? So I see it as they're showing you the evil, but God wakes up and takes over this, and then rides off into the sunset, and we become a peaceful nation, and everything implodes and explodes. That's how I see it. I'm not. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but it sucks that I lost a really good relationship over this video.
I think people come around, man, when they start to realize things. And when's the data when this came out? Do you remember?
I'll get it for you right after.
And the reason I mention it is because you have a reference, and I believe this came out before the Ukraine-Russia conflict took place. And you have a part in here where you see a guy that looks like you could argue is Russian, with the tools he has. And then all of a sudden he's, into a yellow, river, yellow pond, which coincides with, some of the Ukraine colors are wheat, also known as the yellows. For those that don't know, Ukraine's flag, the blue over yellow is supposed to be the skies over the wheat. And so you just kind of see that reference there. So once again, I think it goes into the point you're making. It's a map. It's showing us, things that may have happened or maybe things that are about to happen, because you also see that young girl that's waving the flag. She has a nuclear symbol and she's trying to say peace. Which country has, that type of, tiger or something like that is part of the, I think it's just important. I think this is information, it's intelligence, and we got to pay attention to it.
For somebody to take and go ahead and make this video and this type of animation, which was at least 2 years ago. I've been podcasting for about 2 years, and we did this early on in my process. And that Substack, if I had to guess, is probably 2 years old now. This video is at least that old, and it is prophetic to say the least. Yeah, and there's 5 total iPet Goat videos. But yeah, let's wrap this up, and then I'll figure out exactly when this was published. cautionary tale, predictive programming, made in 2012. Call it whatever you want. It's mind-blowing.
It's wild, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read that Substack.
Yes. Yeah, I'll definitely send it over to you. Freaking love those guys. They come on here, and Beer at the Parade actually is the one that coined this. It's a really good description of those two. They like to climb up on the weakest tree that looks like it might be dying and climb out onto the weakest branch and take a saw and saw on the inside towards the tree. They do not care what you think of them. They are going to tell you what they believe, and they are connecting dots all the way back to the 1700s. Those guys are outside their minds. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I don't know if they're enlightened or insane, but I love talking to them.
They're operators. Those guys are operators.
Right. They're the operators. Well, dude, here, we're going to start to wrap this up. I would love for you to have the last word. If there's anything you'd like to promote, tell everybody where they can find you, your show, your handles, all that stuff.
Yeah, easiest way to find me, social media shows, all that. Just go to AlphaWarrior.tv. Everything will be there. Final word is, listen, God built you with this perfect compass that's inside of you. Break away from media and everything else telling you what to believe and what direction to go. And it's like working out. It's a tool. Start building that trust. And the more you rely on this, and the more you see that it was a good thing to rely on this, you strengthen that. And that internal trust that you have with yourself maybe become the very thing that saves you. So that, and then the last thing that I'll say is, we're in an information war, you guys. And I believe social media is the trenches of that information war. So get in the fight. Share Joe's shows. You come across other content that you're like, people need to see it. It's no more softball. Get these shows, clip it, do whatever you need to do, send it to your other social media, send it to your family, give it to your coworkers. And I think you might be surprised that some of them may approach you in private and be like, hey man, tell me more about that, and then all of a sudden that little group that's under the tree during lunch break is going to start to grow and grow and grow because, courage is contagious. And in the end, just remember, my faith in God, we win. No matter what happens, we win. That journey on what, to get there, it involves all of us. So, stay brave, stay patriotic, and stop censoring yourself.
Yes. And stop censoring others that are in the same fight with you. Alpha, are you going to be at Myrtle Beach?
Yes, I will.
Hell yeah, bro. I'm going to meet you.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one, man.
I'm really excited about that too. So I'm finally getting to go to 2 events this year. So we're going to the Reawaken America tour, and just recently I found out I will also be a guard. So
nice.
I can't freaking wait to meet all you guys. It's going to be awesome.
Nice, man. Yeah, you're going to get this West Coast boy on the East Coast, man. I'm excited about it.
Well, that's why I asked you. I wasn't sure if you were making the big trip, but that's freaking cool. Yeah. Well, everybody over at Badlands has been nothing but great to us over here, to me, to Dave,
Bunch
to everybody.
of
That's really funny. Dude, it's been an honor. I'm so grateful that you came and hung out with me. This is the only show for this week, so thank you. It means the world to me and everybody that's part of this whole, Rambo and Frens squad we got going on over here. The show's growing tremendously, so it's because of amazing guests like you and the Abs and the Stormy Patriot Joes and everybody else. We have the Feisty Cats and on and on. So it's been an honor, bro. I can't wait to watch your show every time I get a chance, especially on Badlands. When I'm on Badlands, that's what I do. When I'm driving home from work, it's an hour ride. So I'm, when you guys see me pop in and pop out, that's why. So it's my little bit of time by myself in the car. I jump in and watch everybody's show. So thank you for supporting me.
You did remind me of something that I want to make sure that I plug. Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern, we do Y Chromes. It's the man show. So you want to see me with a tie off and, just where I could just talk my shit and just see a bunch of men talk about men stuff, but in a way that I think is extremely beneficial to not just men, but women. Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's a lot of fun. And I already started off on a winning leg, man. So I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna be talking a lot of shit. I
know you guys stink for taking my 1 p.m. I'm just kidding.
Oh, is that when you do your stuff at 1 p.m.?
Yeah, but I'm not on every Monday. So gotcha. But I'm joking with you because I've watched that show. When I'm not on Mondays and I get a chance, I stop in, and you are hysterical because Everybody else is kind of like normal guy, and you're like alpha. It's so funny. Yeah.
It's a good time,
Shit's
man.
great. Yeah. I'm gonna have to talk to Abs. I'd love at some point to maybe come over and hang out with you guys on that show. It'd be fun. But,
I would love to see that girl with personalities on there.
yes. Yeah, it'd be fun for sure. All right. Well, you're the best, bro. I look forward to come over to watch you on your channel, AlphaWarrior, and absolutely see you on Badlands. It's been an honor to have you on here. I'm gonna drop you down just so I can do the house cleaning part and let everybody know what's coming next. But you're the man, dude. Thank you very much.
God bless, brother.
All right, bro. Peace. Oh, how cool was that? Look, right? See, this is why. Look, I tell you guys, all the big guests and stuff are cool. And at this point, I could get a lot of those big guests if I tried, I'm sure. I think that it's more important to talk to these hosts, to be honest. I want to talk to Dave. I want to talk to Alpha. I want to talk to Stormy Patriot Joe and Absolute 1776. I want to talk to the guys that are in the trenches. And, steel sharpens steel. These guys have now talked to all of the big names and faces in this movement. I'd like to think that I'm starting to get there. And then these guys come full circle and take a little bit from everybody's story, from all of these big names that are presented to us, and then they have their own. And I hope that everybody appreciates what it is that I'm trying to put together when it comes to that, because I don't know about you guys, but I thought that experience for hanging out with Alpha was absolutely awesome. So let me real quick say thank you to all of the people that are supporting this show. If you guys could, I'm going to let you guys know what's coming up next for the show after I do this part. So Kofefi.coffee, I haven't shown them in a while, but I had a long conversation with Pepe Deluxe this morning. So this project, as it stands right now, will continue. I'm super excited about it. I was, especially when I got on there. I mean, look at that. You got Carly Bonet. You can go right down the line. There's still Julian's Rum still up there. Who else? There's Brian Cates. There's Boone Cutler, right? Sarge, Awakened Outlaw. You can get Brenda, who is an absolutely huge help on my Telegram page. Swampy. You can support any of these amazing content creators, Anons, Patriots, whatever you want to call each and every one of them. And there's me at the end there next to Beer at the Parade. So I gave a few bags of these away in the very beginning. I may just be doing that again here shortly. I'm going to talk to Pepe again today, and depending on how much further we are going to push this project, which looks like it's going to continue, I will be giving some more away. So I know a bunch of you out there already got it, jumped in, bought some of whatever flavor it is you liked, and I know a bunch of you got it for free because I gave a bunch away in the beginning. I think we're going to do that again. So Kofefi.coffee, Rambo Roast is the one that you can use to support this show the most. That's the one that's going to help me, right? That's the one that's going to hopefully get me out of this dumb job I got. And then always My Pillow, right? So Mike Lindell, if you want to save up to 80%, go to mypillow.com and promo code Rambo. Look, he's the man. I have almost every one of his products. Somebody told me they were going to buy 4 dog beds because of the commercial we did. I say do it, right? So I had 4 dogs, one since passed away. So we have 3 now. And they tore that dog bed up in about 6 months. But that's what happens when you have 4 dogs. The dogs loved it. My sheets, my pillows, my big pillow, my small pillow, my robe. I got slippers and I got flip-flops. I absolutely love all his products. Mike Lindell has been on the forefront of continuing to keep election integrity in the conversation throughout this 4-year operation that we've been going through. Please go support him and use promo code Rambo because it supports the show. And last but not least, epicminerals.net. So epicminerals.net. Look, I have to hide my sample versions down here at my computer so I can show them to you guys. Because if I don't, my girls, and when I say my girls, somebody acted weird when I said that the other day. My girls, meaning my girl and her 3 daughters, all steal my products. So I had to buy a very large bottle of Rainfall just to put upstairs so they don't steal my lotion that I have down here for promotional reasons. You guys all know it. They're spraying metals into your atmosphere. Let me take this off. They're spraying metals in your atmosphere. They're poisoning your foods. They're doing all types of things. And I will tell you, I have talked to Patrick offline, and he 100%, I say it every time, but I believe it because I believe Patrick. He 100% believes he's changing lives. And the products are amazing. I have them right here. Go out, do yourself a favor, support epicminerals.net. and in turn support this show. Get yourself something nice for yourself. So with that being said, there's a show for today. Thank you guys all for being here. Please, on your way out, if you guys are one of the couple hundred that joined the show on the last half, go back, watch the beginning, because that interview part with Alpha was awesome. The dude is so freaking cool. So go back, watch the show, hit the thumbs up, and we will see you on Tuesday with Dave from News Treason. He was in here in the chat the whole time. Him and I have been working really hard together on these decodes. I can't wait to do it again with him. It's going to be awesome. And then Wednesday is not yet confirmed, so I'm not going to tell you guys, but I promise you there will be a show, and no matter what, it's going to be awesome. So with that, guys, we will see you on Tuesday. Much love. Peace.